Good evening, viewers, and welcome to another edition of Serving the People, brought to you by the Democratic Republican Party, the DRP, of St Vincent and the Grenadines. I'm your host, Mrs. Anissa Batiste. As usual, let us start with a word of prayer. Loving Father, help me that as I speak to the people, they may know the truth and nothing but the truth, and they may guard against and indeed reject socialism, which is anti the rights and freedoms of the people which you gave to them. In Jesus' name, amen. In this evening's program, we wish to continue to take a look at the socialism nightmare in Venezuela. So this is part 2 of Socialism Nightmare in Venezuela. We want to begin the program by taking you back down memory lane. In the 1900s, under communist or socialist Russia, under the leader Vladimir Lenin, I spoke of him in my book, Socialist Revolution, From Grenada to St Vincent, published in 2009. And in this short video clip, you will observe how under socialist or communist policies in Russia at that time, Vladimir Lenin caused the people to become very hungry and to face famine as a result of his bad policies of taking away their lands, basically nationalizing private property, as we've continually shown you that socialism is against the right to private property. This is important to see because we want you to observe what is happening continually in Venezuela today under the policies of socialist leaders like Nicolas Maduro currently and the past leader Hugo Chavez. Take a look.
When the Bolsheviks came to power, most of the population of Russia lived in the villages, enjoying a pretty miserable standard of living. Most peasants were only just able to feed their families with what they produced. The freezing Russian winters made productive agriculture an impossibility. A decision taken by Lenin in 1918 inflicted an even worse disaster on millions of peasants who were already living in poverty. Private property was forbidden, and the peasants' goods were to be confiscated by the state. Lenin carried out that policy by means of another right-hand man, Felix Dzerzhinsky, the head of the Cheka, well known for his ruthlessness. Cheka officers descended on villages all over Russia and began rounding up peasants' crops and livestock at gunpoint. A quota to be handed over by every peasant and given to the Bolsheviks was drawn up. In order to meet that quota, most of them had to give up all that they possessed. Peasants who protested were silenced by the most savage means. On 14 February 1922, one inspector who visited the Omsk region wrote, "Abuses of position by the requisitioning detachments, frankly speaking, have now reached unbelievable levels. Systematically, the peasants who are arrested are all locked up in big, unheated barns. They are then whipped and threatened with execution. Those who have not filled the whole of their quota are bound and forced to run naked all along the main street of the village and then locked up in another unheated hangar." Lenin was enraged when he realized that the quota set for the villages would not be met. In 1920, he inflicted a fearful punishment on some regions that had resisted the requisitions. Not only would these peasants' crops be seized, but also all the seeds they possessed. Confiscating the seeds meant that the peasants would be unable to produce a new crop. In other words, they would have nothing to eat. Then the famine began. 29 million people within the borders of Russia battled with starvation. In 1921 and 1922, 5 million starved agonizingly to death. Lenin watched what was happening with enormous pleasure. In his view, the famine was most useful. He calculated that it would help to destroy people's belief in God and religion and make them bow their heads to communism.
Yes, my dear viewers, did you see how horrible it was? These are the results of socialist policies upon people. They are not good at all. But take a look at current day situation in Venezuela. First, you will see a slideshow that I've created, putting together photographs, recent photographs as recent as 2016, of Venezuelans unfortunately so hungry that they're eating from the garbage. They're picking food from garbage. Also, long lines of Venezuelans waiting, lining up for basic food stuff like bread, sugar, milk, and other measures that the government there has taken to allow the people to get some food. But this is as a result of the poor policies of the government of Nicolas Maduro and Chavez before, which has led to the situation of hunger and famine, as it were, among a wide cross-section of Venezuelan people. After that slideshow, you will also see some news clippings showing you more details about the situation there. When you look at the slideshow, be sure to take note of the fact that those same long lines you see today in 2017 in Venezuela existed also in Soviet, communist, socialist Russia. It's a backward political ideology and philosophy, my dear people, and we should not follow it here in St Vincent and the Grenadines. You should resist and reject and vote out socialist thinking leaders in government here. Take a look.
Yes, my dear people, fellow Vincentians, this is the reality of the situation in Venezuela. Here we see that there are people who are seeking to get food out of garbage because food is so scarce, basic supplies are so scarce that they cannot access it. This is the reality of socialism in the country of Venezuela currently. These photos are all from 2016, for example. You see, socialism, the ideology thereof, leads to the infringement of the rights and freedoms of the people. And this is the ideology that Presidents Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro has been leading Venezuela with. But the people of Venezuela are saying that socialism is killing them. Socialism and communism are basically the same. They are anti the three fundamental God-given rights of man: the right to liberty of conscience, the right to life, and the right to private property come under attack whenever you have socialist thinking leaders and ideas governing politics. Here we see the people in Venezuela. They are distressed. They are hungry. Take a look at this photo with this woman having written the word in Spanish for hungry, hambre, on a note. Again, more photos of the people seeking food out of garbage, garbage picking. The supermarket shelves are often seen empty.
But oppressors never ever left them to. With his imperialistic game plan, he monopolized the land. Now the people of the Caribbean ain't got much food, ain't got much land. Crying Bimsha, Erie back in Grenada.
The cost of living is very high. When you compare the prices of basic food in Venezuela to the USA, it's significantly higher, and these are prices on the black market, because the situation of not being able to find food in Venezuela has given rise to a black market scenario where people buy up and then sell over on the black market for significantly much more. And this is killing the economy and killing the people in Venezuela. They can hardly eat comfortably. Basic things like milk, bread, toilet paper, sugar. It's a crying shame. But this is the effects of socialist ideology upon a neighboring country, a country who has helped us with things before, yet look at the reality of the situation of their people. We also have a scenario where people have to submit ID card and a little ticket to determine if they get food a particular day. Now these things trace back to old communist Russia in the 1900s. They had a similar coupon situation, as you can see from these black and white photos, and furthermore they had long bread lines and long lines waiting for food, just as you will see in a few photos hence of what is taking place currently in Venezuela. So this is a backward ideology of governance that is taking people back to the days of old communist Russia, where you had police guarding lines of people, long lines of people waiting, trying to get basic food. Look at the current situation in Venezuela. You see? And this is the 21st century. This is 2017. No country should want to have leaders in government who have socialist principles. And remember, don't be fooled by their claim that it's democratic socialism. That's just the same socialism. You're just using democratic methods to get the socialist leaders into government. But the policies are the same. Nationalize everything, take away people's lands through taxes and excuses of development, and then you have bad management of the economy, and then you have people suffering. Look at Venezuela. Reject socialism, my dear people.
Venezuela's capital, Caracas. We've come to a street market in the poor part of town, filming with a hidden camera. Everyone around us is part of a new black market. They're reselling basic household goods, a practice banned by the government to stave off inflation. All of these products are nearly impossible to find on shop shelves.
Are you selling this toothpaste?
You want to buy it?
Yes.
We're searching for something very rare, sugar. How much for this pack of sugar?
2,700 bolivars.
This is the only bag we found in the whole market. Do you have any other packs?
No, it's the only one I have.
To buy this small bag, we hand over a stack of high-value banknotes. More than 10% of the minimum monthly wage. A few years ago, Venezuela was exporting sugar. Now, even the soda companies here can't find any. All the soft drinks bear the same strapline. No calories.
All the soft drink producers have redesigned their packaging to show that this isn't the original product.
What is it that brought a former powerhouse of Latin America to the verge of starvation? To find out, we drive 6 hours to Venezuela's Lara state, which used to be the main sugar-producing area of the country.
All this is cane that was never harvested. It's dry, there's no juice, there's nothing.
Reynaldo worked for the Pt.2 sugar company for 17 years. He was fired 2 years ago after denouncing corruption by civil servants in the company's administration.
This all used to be full of sugar cane. And a few years ago, they stopped producing cane. And the same thing happened in all the ranches here.
Reynaldo started working for the company when it was still private. Then, under Chavez, it was nationalized.
At first, things went well. We got good salaries, good benefits. But the policy was bad. The manager that they put in charge of the company, at the very least, needed to be an agricultural engineer who knew what he was doing. But instead they put a university professor in charge of a corporation, producing millions of bolivars.
Now the plant is only used to refine imported sugar.
There were 324 of us workers when it was a private company. When it was nationalized, there were around 800 workers. Too many workers, and that's what bankrupted the company.
Reynaldo and his family now get by driving motorbike taxis. His two elder sons were studying degrees in finance and administration, but they've abandoned university to focus on earning money, all of it to buy food.
This is today's lunch, a soup that we have prepared, but without arepa patties, because sadly the flour to make arepas costs too much. At the government price it costs around 200 bolivars, but we now have to pay around 2,000 when we can find it.
Reynaldo's family was fiercely pro-Chavez, but after denouncing abuses by local state officials, Reynaldo was fired from the local council. Now he doesn't have access to the subsidized food supplies. In Venezuela, you always pay a high price for criticizing the government.
It's one thing to be for Chavez, but it's another thing to support Maduro. I mean, who supports Maduro?
Some Venezuelans do support their president, Nicolas Maduro. The streets of Caracas are often filled with red flags and T-shirts, and statements disconnected from reality.
What we have here in Venezuela is the best.
So there's no hunger here?
No, there's no hunger. That's a lie.
Look, my love, of course we're self-sufficient because thanks to President Maduro, we're producing food. The state food distribution network is active. We're producing food, you name it. There's corn, there's cereal, there's vegetables. We're producing all of that. Onwards, Maduro, we're with you, and nothing will defeat our comrades.
This vision is echoed in state media. But dig a little deeper and you find people like this man, who works for a state company and is forced to attend pro-government marches.
Okay, we don't have much choice because all of the managers check that we go to the marches. They keep an eye on us. In my department, they keep a register of who goes and who doesn't. They give us red flags and a lunch pack. I'd say around 60% of people in my department are pro-Maduro. Around 40% are against.
But you all have to go to the marches?
We all go to the marches, yes.
Speaking out like this could lose him his job and his access to state food supplies. A threat that sparks widespread fear. Hundreds of people have been waiting all night in front of this state supermarket. The elderly, disabled people, new mothers. Tensions are running high.
And what did the opposition do? Nothing. At least my president does something.
One issue keeps coming up. The recall referendum that could see President Maduro kicked out of power.
We want a referendum.
Are you in favor of a referendum?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Is it difficult to talk here?
I don't want a referendum. I want my president. I want him to stay put. He isn't going anywhere. No one wants a referendum.
Everyone wants a referendum, everybody, because there's no food, there's no medicine. Look at the lines here since 1 in the morning. But there's nothing to buy. I'm not afraid to say it.
Behind the gates, residents of this building want to keep the crowds out and scarce goods for themselves. Salmira will have to wait a few more hours, and even then there's no guarantee she'll be heading home with any food. She and her neighbors have set up an informal exchange, pooling what they managed to find on their shopping trips.
I just swapped something for this oil, which I haven't seen for a long time. It's disappeared from markets, and it's the best oil here, and this is a big deal for me. I haven't been able to cook with oil for ages.
Salmira and her friends are middle-class women experiencing a strange form of poverty. They own their own apartments, they're well-dressed and wear jewellery, but they're undernourished.
When you find milk, it costs 8,000 to 9,000 bolivars. Our pension is 22,000 a month. How do you ever buy milk?
The little we earn goes towards buying food. We never have ice cream or chocolate. We never go to the cinema. Never.
Hunger is Venezuela's biggest emergency, but whilst people forage for food, the country is falling apart. The office of the Tal Cual newspaper looks almost empty. There were 30 investigative journalists working here a year ago. Now there are just 5. The problem, there's simply no paper to print on, a shortage which has hit Venezuela's media hard.
We show in this graphic that the newspapers that have stopped publishing, at first they stopped printing during Carnival and Holy Week, then they just stopped altogether. For example, El Carabobeño, which was one of the biggest newspapers in the country, has stopped printing.
A few months ago, Tal Cual went from weekly to monthly publication, cutting down from 32 to 24 pages. Its small team is fighting for the newspaper's survival.
Paper is imported by the government, which is in charge of its distribution and price. There are restrictions, and everyone is being affected, but we have noticed that there's more paper for state media and less for opposition papers.
In solidly Chavista areas, pro-government newspapers that hail the success of the Bolivarian revolution are handed out for free, even as the country teeters on the brink. People who can leave Venezuela are getting out in droves. The government doesn't release emigration data, but in this Brazilian cultural institute, they have an idea of the scale.
Some say 1.2 million, others say 1.6 million Venezuelans have left the country, and most of them are young people with degrees. We're losing all of these talented youngsters who would have educated the next generation.
Rooms here in which young Portuguese teachers once lived are now empty. Last year, 4 teachers from this school flew home, and 6 have left so far this year. Ivan will be next.
You're going back to Brazil, aren't you?
Yes.
It's a natural decision after giving years of service here teaching.
A brilliant student, Ivan had planned to settle here.
When I arrived from Brazil 4 years ago, things were bad, but nothing like they are today. Back then, you could imagine a future. Now we're living just for today and tomorrow. 80% of the students who studied with me at university have left.
Hunger is the biggest concern in Venezuela right now. But other serious problems are emerging, such as crime, jobs, and education. Uncertainty awaits as the sun sets on the failed promises of Chavismo.
Venezuela is out of food, out of medicine, and now running out of gas.
I can't find gas anywhere. There are several gas stations closing due to fuel shortages, and there was fuel, there are long queues. And this is a petrol-producing country. I don't know where this is going.
There's a shortage, a gas shortage. I don't know exactly what is happening because I do not know, but there is no fuel in any of the stations.
Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves, and for years it's been selling its citizens the world's cheapest gasoline. But the country mainly pumps an extra heavy grade of oil that has to be mixed with lighter crude, which is imported from abroad in order to be refined. Now international suppliers are holding back imports of this lighter crude because of unpaid debt, leaving gas stations in the capital Caracas and several other cities with no supplies. According to Reuters, the gasoline shortage around the country has been made worse by an increase in fuel exports to foreign allies. It's not just gasoline that Venezuela is running out of these days. President Nicolas Maduro is now turning to the United Nations for help to boost the country's drastically low supply of medicine.
I have asked for support from the United Nations to address the economic and social wounds that have hit our people because of the economic war and the fall in oil prices, namely to regulate the whole issue of medicines, because the United Nations has the most advanced and complete plans in the world.
Venezuela is suffering chronic shortages of goods and products, from milk and bread to antibiotics, a situation that forces people to spend entire days waiting in long lines at supermarkets. Others buy food on the black market at steep prices. Maduro says the shortages are a result of an economic war waged by the opposition and the business elite. Critics say the government is to blame for persisting with failed policies of price and currency controls. But whatever the reason, drivers are leaving gas stations with empty tanks and empty stomachs. Christine Pirovolakis, TRT World.
Yes, my dear people. Thomas Jefferson, third President of the United States of America, once said, and I quote, "History, by apprising them of the past, will enable them to judge of the future. It will qualify them as judges of the actions and designs of men. It will enable them to know ambition under every disguise it may assume, and knowing it, to defeat its views." Had the people of Venezuela today known and considered seriously the history of communist and socialist nations like the Soviet Union at the time, or what we know as Russia today, perhaps they would have rejected socialism when it came knocking on their door. For indeed, history is being repeated in Venezuela. We are seeing the end of the so-called socialist principles, which are so good for the common man and the poor and the working class. Look at how the people in Venezuela today are suffering, fellow Vincentians. A country right in our backyard, a country who has helped us, and we are grateful with many things. But look at how their own people are suffering, because political leaders were more concerned with carrying out their ambitions of becoming a socialist nation and fulfilling their socialist communist aims, rather than being concerned with the protection of the inalienable rights and freedoms of all of the people. And so they have attacked their three fundamental rights: their liberty of conscience. As you see, when you're not a supporter of the government, you are what you call persecuted or victimized. They've attacked their right to life by limiting the quality of life with this kind of economic situation, causing the people not to be able to eat properly. And they have attacked their right to private property through the vigorous measures of the government of nationalizing a lot of private businesses and lands, which they then mismanage, okay, and cause suffering upon the people. What are we saying here at Serving the People? Reject socialism. Consider it is a nightmare, as we see in Venezuela, and don't let anybody fool you here and tell you it is good for you. We need to continually reject it and vote out socialist leaders in government in St Vincent and the Grenadines, because the taxes you're seeing increasing now and the harsh measures being taken place, that is just the beginning. Consider Venezuela. Thanks for listening. Call us at 528-1015. That's 528-1015. God bless you.